Alrighty, everybody, Steve here, enjoying a little bit of a latte. And today on The Varied Life, a little bit of background. My wife and I, what we ended up doing was selling everything we had in the United States. House, car, truck, pots, pans, everything in the kitchen junk drawer. We put stuff in a couple of suitcases and we moved and retired here in Korea. Not everybody can do this. So here's the disclaimer. My wife was a Korean citizen when I was over here in Korea serving in the military, and we dated, and eventually we got married, and she's awesome. We've been together for 35 years now. So it's worked out really well. She became an American citizen later on down the road, and we didn't think we would be able to live or retire overseas here in Korea because they didn't have retirement visas or things like that, kind of like Thailand or, Bali or, other countries that have those type of visas. Well, then we found out Korea does have a F1 and F4 visa, and my wife was able to get one of those visas. I think it was the F1. So she had Korean ancestry, and her parents and her family still live here in Korea. She was born here in Korea, raised here in Korea. So that allowed her to get an F1 visa. That allowed me to get an F4 visa, or vice versa. One of those. It's one of those two. So with that being said, we were able to stay here long-term in Korea. Now, each visa is a term of 1 to 2 years, and we've been able to bump ours up to 2 years. So we have to renew ours every 2 years. And then after 5 years, I think we can put in for permanent residency, or we can just continue using the visas we have. Eventually, when we get up in age, and I'm 57 now, my wife's a few years younger, when we or she hits 65, she'll be able to get dual citizenship with Korea and the United States. Me, I'm just an American citizen. But since my visa is tied to hers, that's how I'm able to stay here along with my wife, and, we're good to go. And eventually down the road, you can put in for another visa, and the name of the visa escapes me. But eventually you can put in for it because you've shown you've been here for a long time, don't have to work, provide for yourself a certain amount of income, and so on and so forth. And then that term is like 10 years. So maybe we'll go for that, or maybe we'll retire somewhere else. With that being said, our situation is very different than a lot of other people. And I follow a number of socials and Facebook pages for people like, for example, foreigners in South Korea, or people in, expats, South Korea, those type of websites. Well, we always seem to get people that present a situation like this one that says, will it be harder to get a job in South Korea if I don't have a GED or a diploma? And yes, I'm over 18. Here's the situation. Here in Korea, it's a downturn in the economy. There's a recession going on, even though we don't hear about it in the United States, even though prices have gone up 20, 30, and even 40%. We are in a recession. And whatever happens in the United States happens in other countries that have close ties with the United States, or basically anywhere else, even if you don't. So Korea is going under a recession. There's a housing market problem. Real estate prices are going down. There's not a lot of recovery from COVID because they lost a lot of jobs when they shut down their economy, kind of like the United States. Now there's a lot of people who are looking for work that are overqualified. So we're talking about Korean nationals here. So you have people that are professors. You have people that have degrees or multiple degrees or a high-level degree that are doing food delivery. Yeah, they're working in factories. They're working at Samsung, which is just down the road, about 20 minutes in Godok. They're building this huge Samsung semiconductor plant. The city just boomed out of nowhere because this plant was being built. So it's amazing the amount of infrastructure that provides. But you have people that have 4-year degrees and higher level degrees that are going into manual labor jobs so that they can make it. Also, with the downturn here in Korea, there is a fluctuating interest rate for housing. So what people paid for housing pre-pandemic was a lot lower than what it is after the pandemic, post-pandemic, and the interest rates are high. And yeah, it's harder to buy a house if you're trying to rent a house with the way that they rent properties here, which isn't on a monthly basis usually. It requires a huge down payment. And because of the downturn in the economy, people aren't able to have that enough money. So they're not going for bigger and better houses and so on and so forth. They're trying to make ends meet. And so you have people that lost their jobs during COVID, and people that have higher level degrees and diplomas and so on and so forth, or certifications for whatever field that they're in, they are finding that they have to work multiple jobs. So when somebody comes along and posts stuff like this, will it be harder for a job in the United States, or will it be harder to get a job in South Korea? Let me see if I can show you this. Boom, there it is right there. Will it be harder to get a job in South Korea if I don't have a GED or a diploma? And yes, they're over the age of 18. Yes, it will be really hard because now there's the language that comes into play. And this individual said, oh, I have skills and experience. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but based off my time here in Korea and the times I've been in Korea before and talked with other people who are expats who work and live in Korea, yeah, if you don't have a GED or a diploma, but you have mad skills and experience in some specific area that not many other people have, that sets you apart from the majority of people in Korea, or even the minority of people in Korea who can do the same job and yet speak the language, live in Korea, not the chances of you getting that job are really small, because now you have to get a company to sponsor you, which is a good thing because now you have the weight of the company. The company has some pull to be able to get that work visa so that you can live here in Korea and work. The problem is trying to get companies, Korean companies, to hire a foreigner to do a job that most likely they can find amongst their own population. Yeah, your chances are really small. And in Korea, education is a big thing. It is huge here in Korea. If you don't go to the right preschool, if you don't go to the right elementary school, the middle school, high school, college, whatever, if you don't get into the best universities, the next thing you know, you're going to limit yourself on the high quality jobs that you can get here in Korea. So yeah, there's that. It's definitely a thing here. And college entrance exams are incredibly huge. They're incredibly hard, and people work their tails off, study for hours and hours and hours, and go to schools, go to hagwons or after school teaching and tutoring, so that they can get the good grades, so that they can get into the good universities, so they can get into the good companies. And it is a huge thing here in Korea. So if you're in the United States and you don't have a GED or a diploma, or some type of certificate that sets you apart because you have special experience and skills in a field that they don't have, that limits your job opportunities a lot. That's what I'm going to say. And then we also get some other people that come on here that are like for example, where's another one? This person says, I have many skills and experience. Yeah, good luck with that. Highly qualified people don't get jobs. It's a whole different ballgame here than in the U.S. Not saying you don't have experience, but in Korea, they highly look on education. Without a GED or diploma, you can possibly get a job as a day laborer. Usually, Korea hires a lot of people from other countries to do day labor jobs, to do manual labor jobs, factory jobs, farming, things like that. They're hard jobs. And the reason that a lot of people come from other countries to work into Korea is because Korea pays more than what their country pays them, and they can't get jobs there. So we're talking a lot of people from the Middle East, from Pakistan, from Turkey, a lot of different countries where the standard of living and the minimum wage is a lot lower than what it is in the United States, and it's a lot lower than what it is in Korea. The United States has a pretty good minimum wage, but Korea's got a good one for its economy, but these people are going to be making minimum wage. And then you're talking about, housing, then you're going to talk about food, which isn't as expensive as the United States, but it's a little bit more expensive than what these people are used to paying in their home country. So again, there's kind of a trade-off, and you need to think about that. But I've noticed a lot of people, especially Americans, and that's why I'm going over this information, is to kind of clue you all in regards to what it takes to get a job here. Now, I've seen foreigners get jobs as waiters and waitresses. There's a number of Filipinos that we see in restaurants and little cafes around here that obviously they got their job somehow. And obviously they're on a work visa. Maybe some of them aren't on a work visa, but just came over here. There's immigration problems everywhere. But I wouldn't rely on skirting the immigration laws in Korea, or any country for that matter, because that can be detrimental. If you get caught trying to subvert the immigration laws in Korea, you can be banned. And that'll really hamper your ability to come back to Korea ever. So, and trying to find jobs with existing companies, it's really hard. That are here in Korea, it is really, really hard. You really have to have some skill or ability that is so far advanced that, it's, that they will look at it and say, oh, we don't care if you were born in a barn and you never went to school. If you can do this task, which will make us tens and thousands and millions of dollars, we will get you to work for us. Of course, they're not going to pay you that much, obviously, because that's always how it is. They're not going to pay you what you're worth. They're going to pay you a little bit less so they can make money. I mean, it's a profit-driven thing. Capitalism is. So, it's, if you don't have good education or even basic education, and I'm talking GED or maybe a general associate's degree, it lessens your chances of getting a job in Korea immensely, unless you want to do menial jobs, factory jobs that really aren't so fulfilling, and their pay is commensurate with your life being here, would be kind of sparse and rough. So, and then there's other people that come in and like, for example, there was an individual, let me see where it was. Somebody ended up saying, how can I, where is it? No, that's not it. There's one on here where somebody, that was on another post, I think it was. There was another person that said, can somebody help me get in touch with a Korean company to hire me and help me out because they got denied their tourist visa to come to Korea. I'm laughing not at that person, but because appearances are very important here in Korea. And if you can't qualify and you got denied for a tourist visa, which is the bottom of the barrel visa, the easiest thing that you can get, no Korean company is probably going to hire you. Your chances are there, but it's maybe 1 or 2% unless you have super mad and sought after skills. But if you've been denied a tourist visa, there's a good reason for that. And most Korean companies, appearance is important and your history is important. So if you have a history of, problems with law enforcement or, lack of education, or you've been denied a visa because of some things you did a long, long time ago, unfortunately, Korea will bring that to light and they will say, no. When they have the choice of hiring somebody of their own nationality, not saying that they're racist, versus trying to hire somebody who has been denied a tourist visa, can you see which one would be easier? Why would you hire somebody who's been denied a tourist visa when you can just hire your own countrymen who don't have any tourist visa problems or no problems with law enforcement in their past, no matter how long ago, and start off with somebody fresh? It just doesn't make sense. So Yeah, it's, you know, maybe back in the day. No, no, really, no, not even really back in the day. If you're denied a tourist visa, you're pretty much not going to get a visa for, a company sponsoring you and saying, hey, we're going to sponsor you, even though you were denied a tourist visa, come work for us. If they did, I would be very, very wary of that. And there are stories, as in other countries, of, oh, come to our country, and we'll hire you, and you'll work in the entertainment industry, or you'll work in here and this and that. Next thing you know, these people are working in a factory. They don't have access to their passports. Their passports are taken away. They're set up in a situation where they have to pay for their living, but the pay that they get is so low, it's below. In other words, it's fraud, that they're getting people to come to Korea. They're making them overstay their status, and they're hiding them in Korea to do illegal work. And yeah, they're not paying you all much, and then you have to owe them for the housing and the food and so on and so forth. And so, in other words, you're always in the red. You're always behind, and so it's just a life of working, 6-7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and it's not the type of thing that most people enjoy. So, and then there's even though this happens a little bit, and it happens in pretty much every country around the world, you will have people that will go to a country with the promise of one thing, and then they end up working in entertainment, being a hostess, prostitute. Yeah, it's really not good. So now, fortunately, in Korea, there's not a lot of those type of things. It still happens, and Korea's been doing a great job in rooting out of that type of corruption, but it still happens, but not like it used to. So again, I would be very wary of any type of job where they say, oh, it's going to be easy, when you have already looked at the immigration requirements and you see that you can't, and they want you to show up, and they say some song and dance about, oh, just come on a tourist visa. Oh, it's okay. We'll process your this and that later. Afterwards, we're going to make you a star and blah, 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 and TV and whatever. Yeah, this happened. That scam happens all over the world. And unfortunately, a lot of people fall for it. So, yes. I mean, are there people that actually get to work in actual entertainment and TV? Yeah, but if you've never done that in your entire life, you don't have a portfolio, you don't have headshots, you've never worked in TVs or movies or any type of production, and you don't have a resume for that, yeah, most likely it's probably going to be a scam. It doesn't make sense that an entertainment company in Korea that nobody has ever heard about would farm out somebody from faraway countries when then they can get foreigners who live in Korea to do the exact same job and not have to pay for their plane tickets, not have to pay for food and lodging and so on and so forth. And you see what I'm getting at? If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Now, I'm not saying it's like that 100%, but yeah, it's something to think about. So, and what's interesting, I mean, this thread by itself had 124 comments, and people say people struggling to get a job with PhD degrees in Korea, not to mention a diploma, and you're trying to get a job. And then let's see, I mean, people wanting to come and live in Korea, that's fine. You want to live and go to any other country and live, that's fine as well. You have a desire to do that. But realistically, you have to look at what's going on with the immigration. You have to look at what's going on with the economy. And perhaps before COVID, it was better for foreigners. There was this big push on, Korea needs, and other countries as well, we need English-speaking, English as a second language instructors. In other words, you'd have to have a certification to get that, and then once you have that, then you would be able to get hired at a English academy here in Korea or other countries overseas. But still, that requires some time, energy, and effort to get that certification. So for somebody that doesn't have any certifications, doesn't have a GED, doesn't have a diploma, the chances of you getting hired are really, really, really small. So let's see what else. Some of the other stories on here. You could always marry a Korean, and that will get you into Korea, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. But yeah, and there's visas, like the visa that my wife and I have, the F4 and the F1 visa. Under that visa, we were able to stay in Korea long term. In other words, every 2 years we renew our visas, and we'll get approved as long as we don't, get in trouble with the law, we don't do drugs, and don't work in Korea. That's another requirement. So for people that are like, well, what kind of visa are you on, and how can I get that? Well, you need to be, your significant other has to have Korean ancestry, and even then, my wife and I cannot work here in Korea for a Korean employer. So we had to prove that the income that we have from my pension and the retirement and the money that we have saved is enough to cover us to meet the requirement for Korean immigration. And that requires a few years of tax returns. You're talking about bank statements for 1 or 2 years or something like that. And again, all of this stuff needs to get verified. And if it's not, guess what? If you don't make the cut, you're not going to get your visa approved. It's not like, well, it's close. I'm, within $5,000 or $10,000. They should let me stay and whatever. No, the rules are the rules, and you're not going to find people that are going to bend the rules just because you want to stay in Korea. Same thing in the United States or any other country with their immigration rules. They're going to pull the rules for the best of their people. So, yeah. Some of the other comments on here, let's see, what are we talking about? Yeah, it's almost impossible. Yes, if you have nothing, it will limit you to factory jobs that don't usually get sponsored by Americans. Almost impossible. Education is paramount here. Depends on your field, your age, and your level of Korean. Again, you have to have some type of mad skill. And if you don't speak Korean, your skill has got to be stellar to be able to get hired to work here. So if you don't have education, GED, or diploma, whatever skill you have had better be certified and better be in such high demand that they can't get it here in Korea. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That kind of shows you. Some people say it depends on the visa, not the degree. Of course, if you're doing a work visa, there's a lot of different work you can do. You can do manual labor. You can do, field work in rice fields. Manufacturing, whatever, menial labor jobs. But do you really want to do that for 8 to 12 hours a day? I don't know. Other people say, yeah, it's hard for those with people with diplomas. This person says it's hard everywhere in the world to get a job with essentially no education. If you don't have a GED, the global population views you as uneducated in today's global society. Yeah. This person, basically impossible. Even Koreans with high levels of education are struggling to get jobs. And there's been a number of documentaries that I've watched on YouTube made here in Korea. And I think one of them was from Germany, German documentary. Another one was like Netherlands or something like that. And there's Korean documentaries of the job situation here in Korea. And you have people that have degrees that are delivering food. They're basically doing food delivery, DoorDash, to make ends meet on top of a regular full-time job. So this one individual that I remembered from this documentary, a Korean documentary, is he had a full-time job. And, that's 8 to 10 hours a day. And then he's doing like food delivery, DoorDash, for a number of hours after that. And he was only sleeping like 4 hours a night. That's not a way to live. But that's the only way that he can be able to make ends meet. And with the rising increase in rent and expenses, how much, yeah, it looks grim. This one person says you need to visit job placement offices. You need to find jobs at factories, motels without degree. Yeah. Manual labor, it's very hard. You have to do a job that Koreans don't want to do, either high risk high risk or labor field jobs. Teach English, but again, you have to have a certification, and most of those require that you have some type of degree to be able to do those. Last time I checked, like TESOL or EFL or things like that. Or you're limited to jobs that are really menial. And again, the amount of money that you're going to make is going to be minimal. And yeah, I don't know. Let's see. This person says, who is Korean and works in Korea, says, without a high school diploma, and especially without a 4-year college or 4-year university bachelor's degree, you won't be able to get a working visa for most of the common and easily accessible jobs of assistant English teacher at a public school or English after-school academy teacher. If you want to come and see Korea, come here as a tourist. If you really want to live here and work here, please get the education. And yeah. E6. What is that? Now somebody responded with culture and entertainment visa. People who plan to work in the following areas for the purpose of making profit of music, art, literature, sports, entertainment, acting, music performance, advertising, modeling, so on and so forth. Yeah, those that's kind of rare. Yeah, and they're based out of the Philippines that get people to come to Korea. So in the entertainment industry. But yeah, they are very, very particular. Now I did a video just recently about the new digital nomad visa here in Korea that they opened up in January. So it hasn't been long, but allows you to do a 1-year term of that visa, being a digital nomad, and then you can extend it or renew it for another year for a total of 2 years. It's a test program, so they haven't made a decision on what they're going to change, if they're going to keep it or scrap it or whatever. But even with that, you have to make $65,000 or $66,000 American US income so that you can stay here in Korea as part of the requirements. So you can be a digital nomad, but you also have to prove that you have income from that digital nomad work that you do from whatever country that you're coming from, and show that you've been doing it for at least 1 year, and you have to prove your income. So in other words, that's going to require putting and giving copies of your tax returns, which will be verified, banking statements, which will be verified, and then there's also an FBI background check and some other things that are involved with that as well. So for the digital nomad thing, I know a lot of different countries that have a digital nomad visa are just like, oh, come and be a digital nomad. If you make a minimal amount of money, you can come and stay in our country and be a digital nomad. Korea puts a higher price on their monetary requirements for people to be digital nomads, and it's not as easy as like Bali or Thailand or some other countries like that. So yeah, just because you hear the word digital nomad and you hear that phrase, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy here in Korea. There has to be a lot of work involved. Let's see. Other people talked about jobs, government contractor. Now that is another option. As GS jobs or government service jobs from the United States, they do hire Americans to work overseas. And here in Korea, they have that as well. They will have everything from high technical jobs to lower level jobs to service or working in a store, retail store or commissary, PX, things like that. Those jobs are available. That can give you the opportunity to stay in Korea because you'll be under a status of forces agreement, which will give you a visa, which is basically the U.S. government sponsoring you and saying, hey, they're going to work for us. Boom, you will get a visa that will allow you to stay as long as you're employed with a government service in that field of whatever it is. The problem is trying to get hired for a GS job from overseas in the United States to get here to Korea. Those jobs are hard to come by because a lot of people who are prior military or retired military who have tons of experience, who have degrees, who have education, who have skills and experience that translates directly over to a contracting job, though there's a lot of people that just jump right into that. So getting a GS job or a contractor job with like Raytheon or something like that, it's possible, but you need to look at the jobs that they offer and go to usajobs.org, I think it is, and you can be a contractor. But you're still going to have to bring some skills and education to the table. It's not a free-for-all like the Wild West of just show up and get a job. Most military bases here in Korea, for the United States anyway, is that they will have a number of jobs that are going to be given to Korean nationals. And then there's a number of jobs that will be filled by these status of forces of companies like Raytheon or GE or whatever it is, whatever companies are over here providing services and things like that are going to have those jobs. So, yeah, if you're thinking, well, I'll just be a janitor and things like that, normally those jobs are left to Korean nationals. Or you'll have people that work in, like, so, for example, the gym that I go to, the number of gyms, they will have Korean nationals that are working as attendants, that are working as gym managers, and so on and so forth. You'll have Koreans that work in maintenance. You'll have Koreans that work on, maintenance facilities, and so on and so forth. So they have electricians and plumbers and the whole 9 yards, and they're all Koreans. Not too many Americans work on, those type of things here on the military bases. So again, now you're limiting yourself to a number of jobs that are available. And again, usually those end up being, maybe working retail, maybe working as a stock boy or a stock girl, stocking shelves or so on and so forth. But a lot of those jobs, again, there is a certain quota that the Korean nationals must fill. That's part of the agreement between the status of forces, Korea and the United States, that Korea will get so many local jobs for local nationals, and then, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and that's what it comes down to. Yeah, it's really interesting here, and you can get an H-1 visa, which is like a working holiday visa, and I haven't really looked that much into it. The working holiday visa program is intended for young people who want to learn about South Korean. It allows you to travel in and out of Korea, and it's less restrictive than a D4 visa in terms of scope and work allowed. The H-1 visa is known as a working holiday visa. Is a visa for citizens of eligible countries between the ages of 18 and 30. So for the person that was trying to, they looked like they were older than 30, to visit Korea up to 2 years. The visa allows holders to work part-time to fund their travel and living expenses. So an H-1 visa is something that can be done, but again, you're going to be limited to the amount of time, and you're going to be limited in the amount of work that you do. And if you're limited to part-time work, are you going to be able to find a place to stay? A lot of people do. Where they stay probably isn't as nice as what they thought it would be. I'm just going to be honest with you. So yeah, the H-1 visa is really kind of interesting. And if we look on, let's just go ahead and get into this. So here it is here, the complete guide. This is at fleetdeliverykorea.com to H-1 visa, working holiday visa in South Korea. And it talks about how you can travel and experience Korea. And these are the requirements, and these are the eligible countries. Again, you have to be 18 to 30, so you can run through there. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Hungary, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, Taiwan, UK, and USA. Since the duration of stay is 12 months with extensions available for US and UK citizens. So if you're from any of those other countries, you're limited to 12 months. Passport must remain valid for 1 year. Financial proof. Before arriving, I knew there's always a thing. You work part-time, but what if you don't have enough money? Here it is. The financial proof ensuring you have a bank statement displaying a minimum of 3 million won in savings. So let's pull out the little calculator here. And we'll do 3 million won. And we'll divide that by about 1,300. I think it's like 1,280 or something. But you're looking at $2,300, $2,400, somewhere around that range. The return journey, possession of a return flight ticket or funds sufficient to purchase one. Insurance, acquire special insurance that covers the entirety of your working holiday period. Now, insurance, I think what they're talking about here is the insurance for healthcare. So you need to have healthcare if you stay in Korea more than 90 days, and either that means enrolling in the Korean national healthcare, which comes out to about $100, $110 per month. At least with the visa that we have, I'm covered under an exemption for that because I have coverage. But yeah, there's going to be some insurance, so you're going to have to pay some money for that as well. Application process, draft your travel plan, acquire insurance certificate covering civil liability, reparation, disease, maternity, disability, hospitalization with a minimal coverage of 40 million won. How much is 40 million won? 40,000,000 divided by 1,300. Bam, 30 grand. So yeah, that again, that's going to be, you got to come up with that. Now it's not that you have to come up with $30,000. It's that you have to have insurance that will cover up to $30,000. But again, that's an expense that a lot of people are just like, they think, oh, I just want to go and work in Korea and that's all I need is just to show up and get a job and I'll be good. No, there's some other requirements as well. So submit your application in person to Korean Embassy, process in 5 to 14 days. It can be different based on the embassy. Once your visa is granted, pay close attention to the starting validity date to ensure timely arrival in Korea. And then it goes through a number of things. Learn the language, job restrictions, prohibited fields include roles as teachers, managers, artists, and researchers. However, jobs in hospitality sectors, such as positions in coffee shops, restaurants, and hotels, are permissible. So if you're in a country that your minimum wage is really, 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 really low, and coming to Korea, it seems like it's a really good deal, then it might be a good deal. But if you're from the United States, don't get it in your head that you're going to make a lot of money if you come here to Korea. Korean minimum wage, you're typically restricted to working no more than 25 hours a week. As of 2022, the minimum wage in Korea stands at 9,160 won per hour. So let's bring this up. What is it? 9,161 divided by 1,300. So in other words, you're making basically $7 an hour for 25 hours. So yeah, 7 times 25 a week, you're making $175 a week times 4, $700. $700. So yeah. Let me see if we can get back to the main screen. $700 a month, working part-time, as authorized by that H-1 visa. That is, and you have to pay for housing, and you have to pay for food, and you have to pay for incidentals and hygiene. You have to electricity, cell phone, heat, water, all of those basic things. And then maybe you got to go, maybe you get sick, you got to buy medicine. You figure at least twice you're going to have to go see the doctor if you're really, really healthy. That's going to cost you money as well. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now we continue on, and it talks about your arrival. Within 90 days of entering Korea, secure your alien card registration, or your ARC card, alien registration card. At the nearest Korean immigration office, come prepared with the necessary documents. If you change addresses, you're obligated to notify authorities within 14 days. That's pretty much standard for all visas in Korea. Health and insurance. After a 3-month stay, you become eligible for national health insurance, which is, again, you're going to pay about $110 US for that every month. However, remember, this does not replace the necessity of your working holiday insurance. Wow. So you have to have insurance, and then you have to pay for your health care. So now you have two other things instead of just one. Transitioning to other visas. Now, this is a good question because people will come here, they will work the part-time job as a way to get their foot in the door, and if they can find another job or an ability, some other place that's better, that they can get a long-term visa. If you've been offered a job and seek to switch to a working visa, only citizens of the UK, France, Ireland, and Denmark can transition before the conclusion of their H-1 visa. This applies specifically to those aiming for their E-7 visa. So, yeah, devil's in the details. And yeah, interesting stuff. So there are different ways, but with that being said, the devil is in the details in whatever you do. So when you see these Instagram people or these people that are on social media, Facebook or YouTube, even myself, and they say, oh, look, this is how much it costs to retire here in Korea. They don't go into the specifics of what it requires to have that visa, most likely. Most likely it's just like, oh, well, here's how much you'll pay for housing. Here's this and that. And, oh, here's how much we paid for cell phones. Whatever it is, those people come to Korea on like a 30-day vacation visa. In the United States, you can come to Korea for up to 90 days. So these people will show up, and then they'll kind of hit all the hot spots. They already have money. They're on a tourist visa. They'll pick out a small place and rent it out for 30 days. And then they'll say, oh, well, this is how much we spent for food and this. And it seems very simple. It seems easy. It seems simple. It's like, well, I could do that. And what they don't tell you is the visa requirements to stay in Korea, or the fact that, for long-term stays, it's going to cost you more for housing in many places. Yeah, and you also find out that, some of these places on Airbnbs and so on and so forth, they can get pretty expensive. And so what many of these influencers that go to different countries, they'll try to find the cheapest place they can, and it's cheap, but it's not representative of the norm in Korea, is what I'm saying. So yeah, it can get really interesting, and the image that they portray isn't necessarily reality when it comes to visas, when it comes to expenses, because oh well, I got cell phone coverage, and I just got an eSIM for 30 days or whatever, so that's how much you're going to pay. No, it's not going to be how much you're going to pay. You're going to have other expenses. You're going to have, if you live in an apartment building, it's very different than when you rent for an Airbnb for a month versus living in an apartment under a contract. It is very different. Under an apartment contract, which is usually 6 months, a year or more, you're going to have apartment fees that you're going to have to pay on top of your apartment. You're going to have to pay for city gas because many times that's not included. Sometimes you'll have to pay for different utilities. Sometimes electricity will be included. Sometimes it won't be included. So these internet influencers that are making it, oh, everything's just hunky-dory and so easy when you live overseas, they're portraying something that isn't real 100%. So you need to be careful of that. We need to balance that out with actual information. So yeah, that's and I see so many people on these sites that in social media pages where, oh, I want to go to Korea, I want to go live there, and what can I do? Can you help me out? Can you find me, find me a job? And it's like I've had people ask me for jobs, and it's like I don't do that. I'm retired. I don't work. So I don't pal around with people who own companies that are looking for people and saying, hey, I need people, keep your eye on the lookout for somebody to fill this position. That's not me. That's not what I do. So get that through your heads, because I'm not that guy. But yeah, there are ways of coming to Korea, and I think probably one of the better ones is there's an educational visa that you can get. So you come here to Korea, and you pay for an education as you go and get educated in whatever school that you're going to. There's other ones where you can teach English. That's going to require some education and certification on your part before you come to Korea. Korea used to have a real lax enforcement of people that taught English. And then over the years, and well, decades now, because the first time I came in Korea, I was teaching conversational English at a college, and it was no problem. I didn't have to have any certification. My certification was I was an American, born and raised. And then at the time I was there, the college clamped down because the government clamped down on credentials and teaching and say, hey, whoa, we gotta regulate this because, people are not being taught by, certified people, and they're getting some crazy stuff. So they regulated that type of teaching, and eventually it got to the point of where it's like, well, sorry, we can't pay you anymore to teach this conversational English class. And I'm like, at that time, back in the late 80s, I was like, can I just teach it for free, like on the weekends or something? And they're like, what do you mean? Why would you do that? And it's like, I was having a great time. If I get paid, that's a bonus. But on the weekends, if I could come and teach conversational English and the students take me out to coffee shops and dinners and whatever, and we just, I trade my English skills and they practice and they take me out for coffee, I'll take that any day, and then I was able to do that. But eventually it ended up that I couldn't do it in an official capacity. It was kind of like a school club. And then eventually it just kind of petered out. And then with my job in the military of being deployed and so on and so forth, that just kind of went away. But yeah, and then there's a number of people who have tried to falsify credentials to teach English here in Korea. But those days are gone. The world is interconnected with the internet and high speed this and that and DSL and, everybody's connected to everything. So if you put up a resume and you falsify your resume and your certifications and teaching English and being certified ESL or TESOL or any of those things, they will check and they will verify. And if they do that and they find that you falsified, you will be denied entry into Korea. And that could be for a long, long time. So yeah, I spent a lot of years over here in Korea, so it's really interesting. And some of the stories that I hear, the things that other people have heard and seen and then relayed on to me, it can get pretty wild and crazy. So with that being said, is it impossible to get a job here in Korea if you don't have a GED or a diploma? No, it's not impossible. But without some super mad and highly desirable skills, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. So, and again, there's other ways, and there's a lot more involved than just saying, oh, I just want to work and show up in Korea. Many times there's the monetary requirement, there's insurance. Then on top of that, you have to do with the Korean national health care payments so that you're covered under that. Again, there's more and more things that you pay for. So coming here, even on an H-1 visa, it's going to be more expensive than what you think. So anyway, it's not impossible, but it severely lessens your chances if you have no degree or no GED for that matter. But yeah, anything is possible. But yeah, deal with reality and definitely do not break the laws of Korea or any other country in regards to immigration. It's just not a thing to do, because you could find yourself being fined or even imprisoned. And, that type of housing situation is not nice. I've worked in prisons for 11 years and it's in the United States, and it's not nice there. And in other countries, yeah, it's probably less nice than in the United States. Alrighty, so that's it. That's the retired in Korea talking about getting a job with no education, credentials, and so on and so forth. I wanted to bring about this information so people have a realistic view of what is possible here in Korea. So with that being said, have a good one, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. There we have it.